Well, hello, my name is Makonda, and I want to welcome you to Love and Relationships and Everything in Between podcast. I want to give a special shout out to all our viewers and listeners, all the beautiful ladies and debonair men who will tune into this empowering podcast for the day. I want you to sit back, enjoy yourself, relax, and by all means, share it with your friends or loved ones who want to know more about love and relationships and everything in between. Now, this month on the show, now we have a show for you all today. We have been talking about what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. But we want to specifically say what a great godly man. So, what I wanted to do, I wanted to invite a great godly man to the show and have a conversation with him just to get his perspective on what it looks like from a male's perspective. So, today, that man will be in the person of Marvin Coleman. Now, I can't wait until you all meet him. So, for now, I just want to tell you just a little bit of something about him. Now, Marvin Coleman, he's an author and CEO of executive producer at Inkwell Pictures and founded GodBlessed Entertainment with his brother Melvin in 2001. And I don't know what I was doing in 2001, but he did this in 2001. Now, Inkwell Pictures also encompasses Soul Child Entertainment, the stage production company founded in 2005 by Melvin Coleman, which released such hit stage productions as if he only knew, Gold Diggers, okay, Man of God, and Big Girls Need Love Too. Now,
Hmm.
together, Soul Child Entertainment and Inkwell Pictures have released a broad range of mainstream genre and specialty films. He is co-writer and executive producer of Lorraine. Now, y'all, I really tried to get to see that show, but I did not get a chance to see it. But I cannot wait until it is released again. But Lorraine, this is the acclaimed stage play by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Lorraine Motel, and the influence he had on the entertainment industry that influenced the civil rights movement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this new book that he has is called What Happened? A Concise Guide to How We Grow and Heal. It's a self help book focusing on the challenges of improper healing from not only big, but small traumas and the way to release yourself into proper healing. Now, this particular book is going to be released on Amazon and it's going to be released April 1st, 2024. So this year, I want you to look out for this amazing book that's coming out by Marvin Coleman. So I want to introduce and present to many Mr. Marvin Coleman. How
Hello, hello.
how are
Well,
you doing? How are you
well,
doing today, Marvin?
I'm doing well. Thank you for welcoming me and such a great welcome. I really appreciate that. I'm honored to be here.
Well, we are so glad to have you on the show today. It's such a pleasure and an honor. I have been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while. I remember the first time I wanted you on the show, you were actually in the production of Lorraine, and it was
Hmm.
the weekend that it was about to come out, and I wanted you on the show, but you were in your production, so I did not want to interfere. But I am just so glad that we have an opportunity to speak with you today.
Well, look, thank you so much for having me. And we've got that production actually going to kick back off in Atlanta, Georgia, June 15th, actually. So we're going to do one day there in Atlanta, June 15th. It's actually in Stockbridge, so just south of Atlanta there. It's going to be a
Oh,
great show, though. We're getting a lot of demand, so we're bringing it back.
awesome, awesome. We are looking forward to it being in the A-Town. All right.
Mhm.
Now, Marvin, I want to just get right into it. There are so many things that my audience they don't know about me, but I want to just share a little bit something about me today while we're talking and having this conversation about you. Now, when I was a child, I want to be an actress. Okay.
Hmm.
I remember I had this long hair, got this long hair now, but it's my hair. Okay. All right. But anyway, I used to swing my hair, like they do on the TV show. But I really realized that, maybe, Makanda, you can't really do it because, you don't have you haven't seen anybody do it in your family. But,
Hmm.
I really wanted to, be an actress. So I decided when I was single again that I would go and, try for a movie part. And so I got a call back. I actually went to Philadelphia and I had the call back and I did try to do the play again. Or I meant to do the movie. But I got strep throat on this particular day.
Oh
And
no.
I know I was so upset. So I was like, you know what? It's just not my time. And so the results, they absolutely did not go in my favor. So
Mm.
I want you to tell my audience. I know you're into film and I know you're into stage. So how did you get into film and how did you get into stage?
Wow, that was interesting. It was about a girl, actually. Way back when it
Okay.
was about a girl, I actually when I was younger, my mother is she was a wonderful singer. My mother passed in 2020, but she was a wonderful singer. She a gospel singer and she sang in a lot of places and she was really the entertainer. And so when you grow up in a home with someone who's like that, sometimes it either grows you up into being this entertainer or it pushes you down because you're like, I can't do it like that person, and it was kind of like that for me. I worked a lot behind the scenes but never thought of myself of getting out in front of the scene or getting involved in anything. But when I graduated high school, I joined the military, so United States Air Force. So I'm a veteran,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I
Thank
was
you.
stationed in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the Air Force Academy there, and I was seeing a young lady who actually was involved in a stage play. And so, in order for me to actually spend some time with her on the time that I was off and not the base, I'd have to go to the rehearsals. In order to be at the rehearsal, they said, "Well, you've got to participate in some way." And so I said, "Yeah, I'll help you guys build the set." And then they had me understudy a role, and the play was A Raisin in the Sun. Oh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So I figured, I'll play. They said you could play Walter Lee, and I'm like, fine. The guy who was doing it was wonderful, and I didn't think there was going to be any issue or anything. But then, about 2 weeks before the show was set to go off, something happened where he couldn't do it, and they looked at me like, "All right, Marvin." I'm like, "What? I mean,
Your
what am I
time.
supposed to do?" And so I got up there and really, I mean, it was a great show. It was a wonderful experience. People enjoyed it. I kind of got bit by that bug there.
Uh-oh.
And just from there, I said, look, I want. So when I released from the military, I started actually doing the acting thing, but I was more on the film side. I wanted to do, New York or Hollywood. And so I was traveling back and forth between Florida and New York and just auditioning and all of those things. And that's kind of how I got started into it way back when.
Okay, so can you tell us how long it's been? Maybe 10 years, 15?
Whew, I wish that was 10 years ago. That was probably man, that was probably about 30 years ago. Let's say. Yeah,
Wow,
30
you
years
look
ago.
so young.
Thank
Okay,
you. I'm an old guy up here, I'm an old guy up here.
okay.
That was about 30 years ago. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I'm starting to get these time things. I'm like, man, that was a long time ago. But that was about 30 years ago. And what pulled me kind of changed directions for me with it is I met another girl, some years ago, and she wasn't on the whole acting thing. She really wasn't, supportive in that particular way. And after we got married and I'm still trying to do it, and she made me choose. She's like, you got to choose. You got to choose your family or you choose that thing. And so I chose my family, and so it put that on the back burner for a number of years. I didn't even dabble in acting at all.
Oh wow. Well, we are so glad that you decided to not to, to continue to come. You decided to come back, and
Mhm.
you're going forward. You're fulfilling your purpose. You're fulfilling your call, and we are so glad that you didn't give up on your dream, and you're going wholeheartedly into what God has called you to do.
I
Now,
appreciate.
you're so welcome. Now you know that God says He knows the plans that He has for us to prosper us, to give us a good future. So was entertainment always the plan, or did you just happen to get into it?
I just happened into it. Well, it wasn't always the plan. Actually, when I went into the military, and my goal was really to go into the military to choose medical, which I chose the medical field. So I was a 902XO, and I had some expanded functions because I became an EMT while I was in at that point, and then certified in emergency medical evac. And my main goal was to actually be a physician. So when I went to the military, I actually applied for the academy, and I just so happened to get stationed there at the academy, applied for it, got accepted, and my whole plan was actually medical. So it really shifted a bit, and that play was a catalyst for things really changing for me. And luckily so, because even getting out, I still worked in the medical field for about 6 years after on a couple of trauma surgery units and things like that, and just realized that just wasn't my calling. That's what I was going to do. And I think that's, that's an important thing, because sometimes just because you have an ability to do something doesn't mean that that's
Right.
what you should be doing, and that's what God has purposed you to do.
Well, it's so amazing that you mentioned it because I remember my first major was nursing.
Hmm.
And I was following something that my mom wanted me to do. And
Hmm.
so I decided after I got into the program, and I got introduced to blood, and I was like, you know what, Makanda, we cannot do this. And I can't, just be in this little, I mean, I'm not saying that being in the hospital is being in a box, but I just can't be in this one place because I have these big goals, I have these big dreams. So I can't, be on call or be on duty and
Hmm.
do all these other things that I want to do. So I'm glad that, you could have been a doctor, but we're again so glad that you decided to be in the film industry and do these stage plays that we are just so delighted to be able to see, to be able to enjoy those particular things that you produce.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I have a unique thumbprint, and I know you do as well, which makes us stand out as individuals. But I know you have a twin brother, and you all work together. So,
Mhm.
what is it like partnering with your twin brother?
It's a great experience. I'm one of the dynamic duo between the two of us, and the thing that makes it so amazing. And he started actually working in stage while I was trying to do the film thing. So it was a really the way we've been able to pull things together based on his expertise from stage and where I come from the film side has worked a lot of great synergy. But the other thing is just uniquely twin of us, because we have an ability to know where each other is going when it comes to writing and producing projects, when it comes to shooting from a particular perspective. We actually, and this happened with the Lorraine project and others, he can be writing on a project and put it down, and I can pick it up and finish writing it or add and write scenes to it, just because we're so into each other's heads and we
Mhm.
know where we're going. It makes it a lot easier. So, some people, it takes them months to produce a project and to write a project. Us, it could take a week or two maybe to get a full project, written, and we can just crank it out. So we've got a number of projects that we haven't even launched yet, just because we haven't had the time.
That's so amazing. But it's glad it sounds like a married couple, you're gonna able to complete each other's sentences. And so that's amazing that you all have that deep connection, that intimate connection. But brothers,
Yeah,
that's necessary to have that type of
absolutely.
relationship.
Absolutely. It's good working with him in a lot of different angles, because the other thing is that he can tell me, we can talk to each other and be honest with each other about certain perspectives, and we know that it's coming from a growth place. It's not, out of jealousy or anything like
Right.
that. It's something that we're using to kind of sharpen each other. And so that's also good, because I've had to tell him some tough stuff, and he's had to tell me some tough stuff, and it's grown us. It's allowed us an opportunity to really sharpen our skill.
Now, when you all were in high school, did y'all ever play tricks on girls?
Everybody asks that question. We never did. We didn't, well, that's not necessarily true. The kind of tricks I remember in high school when we were dating, and we were both dating, he was dating actually a girl, her name was Nikki. And
Uh-huh.
he was dating a girl, and her name was Nicole.
Wow.
And that was kind of weird. But anyway,
Okay.
he would sometimes when they'd be walking and they'd be talking together, we would switch positions behind them, so they'd reach back and
Right.
grab the wrong one's hand or whatever. And so we used to do things like that, but never really played any game
Okay.
games. That's the more exaggerated thing, when people who aren't twins expect you to play those games, but not too much. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. So I'll let you slide this time. I'll let you slide. Now that I'm so glad to know that you have a twin and all the amazing things that you are doing. I just want to know what projects are you currently working on now?
Well, so the biggest project we're working on is this project called Lorraine, and it's of course stage play. It's a period piece, and that just basically means it takes a snapshot in a period of history or time, and it's dealing with the civil rights movement, of course, and Dr. Martin Luther King. And so the Lorraine is about the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. Of course, that's the location where Dr. King tragically lost his life. But a lot of people don't know that that motel was a Green Book motel. And so some people saw the movie Green
Green
Book.
Book.
It
I
was a
remember that movie.
safe place for African Americans to really travel and African American motorists to travel during the time. But the other unique thing about that motel, it was located a block away from Stack Records. So
Mm.
you're talking Isaac Hayes and Aretha Franklin and other people who actually worked out of Stack Records would go to that hotel. So when we looked at historical pictures from the hotel, we saw pictures of Sam Cooke at that hotel and James Brown and all of these other figures. And so it put us in a position where we're like, let's go ahead and do some deep research and tell this story about the hotel and about the influence of the entertainment industry on Dr. King and vice versa. Because a lot of people don't know that Aretha Franklin actually funded a lot of the civil rights movement and travel and things like that. Harry Belafonte, who was a close personal friend to the Kings, Sidney Poitier, who didn't want to really even be out front with his support, but provided financial support. And a lot of people in the entertainment industry provided support for civil rights movement. So it's a significant project. It's one that's very redemptive as well too, because when people think about the Lorraine, or people who know think about Lorraine and Dr. King, it becomes very dark. And so we're trying to resurrect it to be something that says, no, there's a backstory of success. There's a story of triumph here. There's a story of challenge and struggle. All the great things that a story needs is involved in this story, and it's worth being told. We have to tell these stories.
Well, we're glad that we have people like you that can tell those stories because we need history. I mean, we need our history. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that again that you're able to take it by the reins and go forward and make the production for us to be able to see those things.
Well, I appreciate that. I think the climate that we're in right now is very similar, I believe, in my opinion, to that climate there back in the 60s. A lot of divisiveness and finger pointing and suspicions and all of those things. And I think that when you look at what music was and what music did in that time, music was something that breathed life and unity back into people, and the entertainment kind of did that. And
Yeah.
so it's something I think is very relatable to where we are now. We need that same energy, that same unity right now, and I think no better way to do that than our show and other shows like it, stage plays that tell the story and tell about not only where we've been but how we got from point A to point B, with the struggles but also the triumphs in it as well too. And so we're happy to bring this project.
Awesome. That is so amazing. Well, we're looking forward to Lorraine being coming out really, really soon again in the ATL. And again, the triumph and like you say, the victories and the triumphs and the different things, the obstacles that we faced in our lives that we've actually overcome. We've overcome a lot of things. And so,
Absolutely.
and we appreciate you so very much. Now, are there any other projects that you're working on?
We are
And
working on a couple of things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna say I've written 5 books, and so I understand the dynamics of the writing that you've done. So
Mm.
can you tell us a little bit more about your upcoming book?
Boy, can I. This book has been a labor of love. I actually finished the book about a year and a half ago and just never really put it out. Some of it was because of, the work I was doing with Lorraine, but it's just become time to push the book out. And so it's called What Happened: A Concise Guide to How We Grow and Heal. And the book is a very personal book because it talks about, um, the different things that we go through in life, even the small things, the small traumas, and how a lot of times we heal improperly, you know, and because of that, because of the fact that we heal improperly, we don't recognize, we don't notice when we're still hurting or something that's impacted us negatively. And so that's what the book really is about. I wanted to really take the notion of brokenness and
Okay.
spin it a little bit to say, because it's not that people aren't broken.
Mhm.
I think that people are, but I think brokenness in a person is something that you recognize pretty quickly right off, right? It's
Right.
something like if you went to a bicycle and that bicycle had missing pedals or a missing wheel, it's broken, you wouldn't even bother to get on that bicycle, right?
That's
But
right.
if you got on this bicycle and the tire went flat, you might spend the time trying to fix the
Yeah.
tire, or if the
Mhm.
pedal fell off, you'd fix the time. And that's what I mean by improper healing. We're all self-healing organisms, and we heal ourselves both physically and mentally, but often we heal ourselves improperly. And so this book just really highlights on that. And in doing so, highlights on the fact that it's not just the big traumas that people go through, but it's the little things as well that can change the way you think and impact you in a way that maybe moves you to handle things in a way that is unhealthy. And so this book really highlights on that.
Oh wow. Well, I know sometimes a lot of times we have a wound. I know Jesus after he was crucified on the cross and he showed the first thing that he showed the disciples was his wounds. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to show people or express to others what you're going through, what you're facing to be vulnerable and express your wounds because again, we need that healing. I remember the song by Sexual Healing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the artist at this time, but it
That's
was
that
called
Marvin Gaye right there.
Thank you, Marvin Gaye. That sexual healing, and so we need. Not only did he talk about sexual healing, but we need physical healing. We need spiritual healing, and
Mhm.
so again, I'm glad that you were able to write that book, and we look forward to reading and having a copy of that book.
Yeah, I'll definitely put something out to let you know when it hits. And it's like I said, it's a real personal book, not only due to the fact that it has personal stories in it. And so I start from my childhood and things that happened and what I learned. And the book actually has, at the beginning of the chapter, it talks about, or it mentions in a line, what the brokenness is. So it might be, or what the improper healing is. So it might be location, your location, or how you're born into the world. And then it'll talk about some strategies for how you can actually, you know,
Mm.
refix yourself in the process. And even at the end of some of the chapters, about seven of the chapters, there's 12 chapters in the book, but about seven of the chapters in the book have an exercise at the end that coincides with how you kind of get yourself together. And the other thing that makes the book so personal is that when I was a child, my mother tried to write her life story. And
Mm.
so she went through these various aspects about her grandmother's life and her mother's life, and she was writing the story. And when she passed away, I found some of the things that she had written and remembered the story she talked about. So the first chapter in the book, which is the longest chapter, incorporates the things that she had written and the stories that she had told into one big chapter that talks about my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother in order to really signify that locational healing.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to find it because I mean, the best place to have things, make sure we write those things down because we want to
Mhm.
share it with our family. We want to leave a legacy for our family. And again, for generations and generations to come, have that information stored. And so I'm glad you were able to find that information.
Absolutely.
Um, so what advice, or what, before I ask you that, can you tell me how does your faith, because again, we're talking about what a man, what a great godly man. And I've learned so much about you today, and I'm so glad you were able to share the things that you have experienced in your life and the things that you are doing right now. So how does your faith shape the things that you were doing in your writing and in the entertainment industry?
It shapes everything, and it has been a growth journey in that sense of things. I had some great advice in the very beginning when I started doing acting, and I had an acting coach, and her name was Sylvia Sutton. And Sylvia said something to me in the very beginning, and she was talking about your integrity and finishing in the way that you start. And she talked about compromises. And she said, in this entertainment industry, people are going to accept you for what you give them, and they're going to shape you based on that. If you don't come into the industry with that, they'll give it to you. They'll turn you into what they want you to be. And sometimes that it'll be things that'll compromise or conflict with what you want and conflict with you morally and different things like that. So she was like, make sure you know what you want in the direction from the very beginning. And that was very helpful because my faith is always in big or small has always shaped what I did. And it allowed me an opportunity to really, in the very beginning, when I was a much younger man, keep my integrity as I operated kind of in that space. And then from there, it gave me an opportunity. And just growing up in church, I was able to really look at the comparisons between, what I wanted my life to be and what I wanted to represent, and what others who were doing or trying to do the same thing that I was doing were doing and how it represented. And it really put me in a position where I started, even when I started writing and working on projects, I wanted to write projects that were very strong projects, but didn't have to be, overwhelmingly filled with negative tropes and stereotypes and profanity and sexual overtones and things like that. And so my writing basically was influenced by my faith and the fact that I believe that you can tell a great story without having all of the negative things that people see as being draws. And so as that moved and as we started doing our stage plays, one of the reasons why we created the GodBlessed Productions aspect, because we wanted to really make sure we kept a foundation of God in the things that we do. And people, when you say God inspired and you look at the Bible as being God inspired, there are some wonderful, wonderful stories in the Bible, and probably most stories that are created in Hollywood have some type of foundation in a story that was kind of told in the Bible. You've got murder, you've got intrigue, you've got sex, you've got all the different things that are involved in there. You've got betrayal with kings and everything. And so, because of that and because of that influence, it really helped me to be able to tell stories, I believe, in a way that's true to my faith and true to what I believe, but also something that I think would resonate with people and do it in a way that was going to be effective. Sometimes people complain about faith-based type stories or people who have a faith connotation when they're writing stories that is so watered down or so corny or whatever that it's just not relatable enough for people to really get anything out of it. So we work really hard to make sure that our projects are true to the audience we're trying to reach, but not so overblown or pushed out with the shock value that people really lose the point and the message.
Well, that's good because you want to be relatable. You want to speak to some things that people are going through. And like you
Mhm.
said, with your healing book, you want to have those solutions because people, we all have problems, but
Mhm.
there are solutions out there. And with that biblical perspective, that faith, that knowledge that you have, you're able to share it and again be relatable to them. And I
Absolutely.
remember this concept about begin with the end in mind. So
Mhm.
the young lady that told you those particular things, that was a great thing to have for you to know as you in your production and living the life that God has purpose for you to have.
Absolutely. It was very, I mean, very, that was a very instrumental part of a very short conversation, but really got me to the point where I really started thinking through the process of what I wanted to do. And even more so as we write projects, one of the things that when we started writing stage plays, they were gospel stage plays, and a lot of those stage plays, when you see them out there, there are plays like God comes through and makes it all right at the end.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we didn't do, because
Right.
God doesn't come through and make it all right at the end. He may give you the strength to get through it or the knowledge, the power, the endurance, and things like that. But sometimes things don't button up well at the end. And so even in telling some of our stories, we want to make sure that we told them as true as possible for people to be able to relate to and draw power from. And so not everything gets buttoned up at the end,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can rely on that knowledge and that strength and the things that you get from the Lord in order to be able to carry you through. And I think that's the most important thing, is the relationship.
Absolutely. Well, God, He said in His word that all things, I don't care what it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, the out, it's all going to work together for our good. So it may not look good right now at that end that you're talking about, but
Mhm.
it as the culmination of everything is going to work together for our good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I really enjoyed our conversation, but before I let you go, I want to know what advice, because you're in the film industry, and you are a great storyteller. What advice would you give to my audience, or men or women, that's seeking a relationship, not only maybe with God, but with another person, or a man or a woman that they may
Oh,
be
wow.
interested in? Any advice that you would give to them, that they could just lug on and say, you know what, that love and relationship show, and they gave me some great information about Marvin. I want to know a little bit something about love too in a relationship that I may be pursuing.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think being very realistic about what love is an important thing. And I think to unlearn what the world has told you love is probably a very big step in the process. I see one definition of love found in the Bible in Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. and that's the definition, right? And so when you're looking at that and you're calling yourself being in a love relationship and you want to judge what if this is a real love relationship, then you go to that definition.
Yes, love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't provoke evil. It doesn't keep record of wrong. Now, I like they keep record of wrong because, Makanda, she ain't perfect, So I'm hoping, I know my husband, he's not going to keep record of my wrong. So again, that's so important in our love relationship. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I hope that he is still here. Y'all excuse the broadcast right now. Of course, with technology, it goes in and out, and I hope that he will come back shortly. But well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up everything because my screen has paused. And so I want to thank you all so much for allowing to me to introduce you all to Marvin and have him on the show. But until the next podcast, I want you all to take one day at a time, live in the presence, focus on love. There are so many things that I could owe you, but love should not be one of them. And what can I say about our amazing, fired up special guest, Mr. Marvin Coleman? Want you to know that we greatly appreciate you taking out the time out of your schedule to be with us today. We appreciate all your jewels and diamonds of revelations, your insights, and your encouragement. So again, I appreciate you all for listening today. And I want you to know that I believe in you. I believe in the God in you. I love you all. And I know that God loves you best. If you want to be booked on the podcast show, you can reach me at makondae@gmail.com. In the meantime, I want you to follow me on Facebook and IG at Makonda Clayton. My website is ForBoRubensAcademy.com. And you can go to Amazon.com where you can purchase my book, Shattered to Victorious. You Will Live Again. I also wrote God Glamour Girls Rules from A to Z. Women motivated by Purpose. That was actually an anthology book. But my most recent book is Bounce Back, How to Get Your Swag Back After a Breakup. So again, I thank you all so much for joining me on the podcast today with Marvin. And I look forward to you tuning in next time to Love and Relationships and everything in between. I'll talk to you soon. Know that you are loved, you are amazing, and you are enough. And I'll talk with you all soon. Have a great day.